Dude, you go door knocking, friends and family, dead body, $250,000.
Boom.
How long? When did you start on that house?
Welcome to the Big D Pod
Life.
Thank you, guys.
Pod Life. Dude, welcome.
Who do we got?
Dude, we got none other than the one, the only.
Next time, let's have him hide and come.
Yeah,
like,
dude, we need like an elevator, like coming on the stage, like
with
Britney
smoke.
Spears, dude.
Smoke's coming up. From
Shout out to
the
Britney. We got the one, the only Tino Luna, ladies and gentlemen. Yay.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited.
Dude, you came in hot today with this bad boy, and I don't even know what it is.
It's a bourbon.
H. Derringer. It's a bourbon, okay? And it's got a fucking pistol at the top. So whoever's coming next, better bring your A game. Better bring us something better. So, like, bring us a car or bring us maybe like
bring us a brand new house.
Brand new house, a deal. It's
like
fine too.
$250,000 profit or something. I don't know, be cool.
I like fun stuff. Like, bring me like a drone or something I can fly around. You know what I'm saying?
I have a drone.
So whoever's up next,
bring it.
challenge accepted.
Fly it around.
So Tino, what's been going on, dude? How you been doing?
We've been doing really good. Nick and I, totally solo. I was kind of breaking down the business here
Yep.
with us. And so it's Nick and I just secured an office downtown at the Bank of America building.
Whoa.
So
High rise?
excited. Yeah.
Dude, life in the big city.
10th floor.
You got
And we
views?
have one door knocking guy that mainly covers the east side. Shout out Kevin. And then we got one gal that covers the west side.
Dope.
We have a full-time MLS caller, if you will, that tries to get deals off MLS. 4 cold callers in Mexico, and then 1 lead manager in Mexico.
Damn, you guys are popping off. And what's the main business model? Wholesale?
Wholesale, yeah. So we
Are you flipping?
Not as much as I
Okay.
did last year. So
Yeah.
we did a bunch of flips last year. That partnership kind of dissolved, and we're still friends, and he's a good guy. But kind of really focused on wholesale, just because that's really where I learned like how to do this business, right? Like the sales part. Like I felt like I went away from my bread and butter, which was sales, direct to sales or direct to seller. And so yeah, that's what we're focused on now.
I've known you long enough to know that that's, I would say that's your strong suit in the wholesale game. So, well, Tino, why don't you tell us a little bit about like where you're from? Tell us a brief story, family, and then like how you got into real estate. Like we just like how did it all get started for you?
Tino Luna, originally from California. I was born and raised in LA. I was there till 16.
Yeah, do this.
Let's go Dodgers. Moved out here when I was 16. Went to high school in Surprise, actually.
What brought you out here?
My parents wanted to get out of LA. It was expensive, overcrowded, and everybody, I felt like, moved to Arizona at that time. Yeah, came out here, went to high school here a couple years, went to Kansas, played college baseball.
Were you like heavily recruited? Did you walk on?
Yeah, so I was actually really heavily recruited in Arizona when I was in high school. I verbally committed to ASU, hurt my arm my senior year. Everything got pulled, and so long story short, my senior year I ended up pitching 1 inning, and ASU was there, and they were like, "You're done."
Really?
Yeah. So I'm actually going back to Kansas City this weekend for like a 50-year reunion for like the baseball program out there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. My whole life, I grew up playing competitive baseball. Like I really thought I was going to go Division I and do the whole pro ball route. And so when that didn't happen, it was like kind of depressing that I ended up at a small school in Kansas. But I'm actually really glad I ended up there. Made some really good friends, lifelong friends, and I think if I would have went to ASU, I would have partied too much and got kicked out anyway. So
That's a legitimate possibility. Was that a 4-year college?
It was
University?
a 4-year college. Yeah, so I went there and got my nursing degree.
Okay.
Did not want to do nursing. Yeah, so I stayed out there a year after. I actually didn't even do nursing after I graduated college. I did sales for a little bit, and then I tried to like walk on essentially to play pro baseball.
Okay. Yep.
I did a short stint I tried out for the T-Bones anyway. They cut me, so kept trying to do that, and then finally I was like, well, shit, I guess I need to make money.
Gotta do something.
So I moved back to Arizona and then became a nurse.
Okay. All right. Came back to Arizona, became a nurse. You're nursing it up. Where's the transition to real estate?
Cody Sperber.
Really?
On Facebook, yeah. I saw one of his ads, like the check in front of Chase, you know?
Yeah, we teach you how to
buy houses with none of your own money. At first I was like, this sounds like bullshit, but I bought like his very cheap entry course Ended up learning about wholesaling and then got straight into it and started knocking doors.
And what year is this that you're back and you buy that entry course?
August of 2018.
August of 2018, and you're married with, how many kids do you have now?
2.
You have 2. Were you married and did you have any kids at this point?
I was married with 1.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was engaged with 1.
You were engaged with 1 kid in the medical field, start to venture towards real estate. Was it like when you first were doing it, you're like, hey, like, I'm just going to go do this as like side cash, like we can make extra money? Or was it like, hey, I kind of want to path out of this medical field?
So I didn't ever want to be a nurse. It was more like my parents' passion.
Yeah.
And they're like hardworking, like Mexican roots. And so they're like, hey, go get a good degree, go get a stable job. And I didn't really like that. And then when I was actually in college, I got into Amway, which is like a multi-level marketing company.
Okay. Yep.
And that opened my eyes to like entrepreneurship. After that, I was like, I have to do something. I tried crypto. I lost a bunch of money. And so I was like, I can understand wholesaling. Like, it's very simple. So I said, this is the thing.
I buy for one price, I sell at another price.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were going to do wholesaling. Wifey's on board, or was she just kind of like, let's like see where this goes?
No, she was pretty on board. She just kind of like brushed it off. Like, as long as I was doing what I needed to do to pay the bills.
Yeah,
it was
bring that
like,
bacon. So when did you start to get the idea that, okay, like maybe I want to dive deeper into this than just part-time?
So I ended up knocking for a guy that was connected to Cody at the time, and I had one deal. I actually got it under contract, and I saw what the expected spread was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we ended up, the deal fell through for whatever reason, but when I saw like the potential and how simple it was, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so I just kept fucking chugging along, and I failed for 18 months, but.
So you saw a little bit of juice on the board. You're like, fuck it, we can make this happen. Then you go 18 more months of door knocking, or what was the? No,
so I went from door knocking to cold calling for the same guy, and then I left him, went and worked with another guy named Justin Vega. So Justin's awesome, but I think at the time it was like a brand new business, and I was cold calling essentially, like what a VA would do.
Yep.
And so I got recruited to go work with the same guy that I started with pay, which I never got paid anyway, but I went back with him, did some cold calling for him for a while, and then finally after like another 8 months, I was like, dude, this is not working. Like, I was actually getting contracts and they just kept falling through, or maybe they didn't fall through and I didn't get paid.
Little secret fall through.
Go back and look at those tax records. We'll figure it
Trap
out.
door.
Dude.
I know. And I ended up connecting with Pace.
Okay. So, and that's where you and I met. So you basically went through 18 months of like, sounds like bullshit.
Yes.
Sounds like it sucked. Like a lot of work. So you were working full time at that point as a nurse? Is that like 40 hours a week? Is that pretty standard as a nurse?
So it's 312s.
312s. Okay, so 36. That's math for you guys. So 36 hours a week. How many hours a week would you say you were putting into like wholesaling real estate?
I would say like 20, 30.
Okay. Fucking
Pretty much full-time.
60 hours a week, grinding it out. Already have a kid, fiance, right? So like just hustling. And like that back end one doesn't pay you for essentially what feels like probably 2 years.
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, I would schedule myself. So as a nurse, the nice thing is I could schedule myself Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was doing cold calling or door knocking or whatever. And so it was definitely taxing because like anytime I would get something under contract, I knew what the expected sale price was.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to her and be like, hey, I think we're going to this much.
Like, look at this, yeah.
Yeah, and it would fall through. And she was like, she never said it, but I could tell it was like, okay, when the fuck is this going to happen?
Okay, so that's what my next question was going to be like, all right, from the time you start to like the 18-month process, like how much money do you make like overall? $0.
Yeah, I think I spent money.
Was there a point in your mind where I'm like, I got to fucking either we have to make money or it's done? Was there like an ultimatum for yourself?
No, there was no ultimatum, mostly because like I had the bills handled. So,
yeah.
And I wasn't paying for marketing. I wasn't paying for data. I was like, my time,
it was just time.
Is free, right?
Yeah.
But it was also, I don't know if it was because I'm stubborn or maybe I'm just too dumb to quit, but like I just kept going.
Could be a little bit of both, dude.
Could be.
I got a little bit of that. So you can already tell like one of your strong points there is just like the unwavering belief and like, no, we're gonna make this work.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it sounds like. When's the point where you actually start making money? Is that when you went and started working for Pace?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
was Jeff already working there, or you came there first and Jeff came after?
No, so Jeff and I were actually partners. So how that whole thing transpired is like,
Yeah, tell me that story.
Jeff and I were partnering up, basically kind of like what him and Pace and Cody did. Like Jeff knew how to market and get leads, and I knew how to close.
Okay.
And so we started working together. We ended up seeing that he was throwing a meetup that you spoke at, or you like dropped some gems at. It was at the batch office. And we ended up just going to that meetup together. I didn't talk to Pace at that meetup. I ended up hitting him up, DMing him the day after, because there were some contracts that I had that fell through, but I still talked to the sellers.
Yep.
And so when I learned about creative finance, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't a cash deal, but maybe it's a creative finance deal. So I sent the leads to Pace, and he worked them.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yo, you should come on a ride along. And then kind of the rest was history.
You got in that Prius and never looked back, did you?
Yeah.
So you and Jeff come over, and from what I remember, you guys were cranking deals. I always remember, like, I was sitting in that office, and like I was always really decent on the phone, but I just didn't ever. I always tell people I didn't have the right, like I didn't have like kill, like I couldn't go for the throat ever, which is probably my problem. But you guys, I remember you guys started cranking deals. How much do you know how much you made in that first year working with Pace, as opposed to the $0 you made in the previous 18 months?
Yeah, so I was pretty close to 6 figures.
That's crazy.
And I started in January. My first check wasn't until March. But dude, within the first 4 days, I had a deal essentially. So like, I got the guy to commit to a price. I didn't know how to run through an armless contract. So Pace came with me and actually like physically closed it.
Like inked it, which he was really good at.
Dude, he's freaking best closer.
I tell people that when you're talking with Pace, or like you're watching him talk to somebody, it's like he's having 3 conversations at one time, and you're trying to keep up with one of them.
Dude, he's the best I've ever seen. And I mean, I learned before that I had a natural knack of sales and connecting with people, but just seeing him do that is next level.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you do that, goes almost 6 figs in the first year working with Pace, and now his wife, he's starting to go like, oh, what's going on over there?
I actually walked away from nursing and as soon as I started making money with Pace, I walked away from nursing, not intentionally. I had my 2-year-old son Liam in March, and I didn't know shit about COVID.
Okay.
So I worked float pool, so I would go anywhere they needed me, so ER, ICU, whatever. And I was like, I just kind of want to stay away. I have a newborn. And so they gave me time off.
Yeah.
And then when I started making money, I just stopped going in. And I called them for my tax returns, and they're like, hey, you're not even working here.
Yeah. You're like, damn, for real?
Yeah. So I basically like fired myself into retirement.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She was super excited, and she got to stay home for the first year of Liam's life. Right?
That's awesome.
So,
full-time mom mode.
It was awesome. It was definitely like that belief was there of like, hope I can do this.
How was the beginning of the pandy for you? So I remember we were all in that office, and it was kind of a weird little like, what the fuck's about to happen right now? And I had just bought that first flip from them, so like as soon as it hit, I'm like, well, I gotta go dive into this flip so I don't lose all my money. I just remember they actually like even Pace like shut down the office for like a month or so, like just being like, hey, we don't know what the fuck this is. Like, let's go figure it out.
Yeah.
That's when they thought like 1 in 10 people were gonna die. Like,
yeah.
So.
And on top of that, we all thought that the economy was just gonna go to shit too.
Oh, dude, for like 2 or 3 weeks, like no one did any deals. It was like the fucking world froze.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Dude,
So.
but it was good for us. Like that, our volume went way up.
I remember like after like the 3rd week, Pace was like, hey, we're using this like right now. It's just like all these distressed sellers, like, hey, you have no idea what's gonna happen. Like, we want it lower. And then everyone knows, like, obviously history didn't do, I mean, it did maybe this initially, but then it went, right, skyrocketed.
Still going.
So you guys crushed more deals. And then eventually you and Jeff move on from Pace's office. You guys did like a full year there.
Yeah.
And decided to go do your own thing, right? Which like natural growth cycle, like that just happens. So when you guys left, what did that transition look like?
Right after we left, Jeff and I kind of started together again. And Jeff connected with Templeton. Him and Templeton go way back.
Yep.
They're homies. And I connected with another guy by the name of David. And so we all kind of like worked deals together for a while. And then Jeff kind of went the Soul Pod route.
Yeah.
And so we kept our thing going, and we flipped some houses and we did some wholesaling. Like I said, we got away from wholesaling a little bit. So I was with him for a full year. And then in like December, he and I kind of had a talk, and we just decided to go separate ways because of where our vision was for the wholesaling thing.
Yeah, it doesn't always align.
And yeah, so we're still friends. He's a good guy, but yeah, that transition was definitely intimidating because it was like I was getting leads supplied to me already.
Yeah,
and they were good leads.
Yeah,
and
there was a well-oiled system with those guys, like the back end, like all the VAs, and like So now you go on your own. Are you still making money, or how's it going?
The first month that I left, I didn't make anything, and then after that, it was like that fight or flight instinct kicked in, and so I like started doing anything I could to make money, and it was wholesale here and there, and like a little JV here and there.
Yep.
And then that's really why I started getting into flipping, to be completely frank, because it was like, okay, if I fill up my pipeline of flips and buy them with enough spread, I can guarantee my income.
Yeah.
So we got heavy
and you
into
cherry pick the deals too.
Yeah. So we still had VAs at that time, but VA route is a grind. Like having to train them and stay on top of them and lead manage and all that stuff.
I was gonna say, not only that, but like once they even produce a lead, then just like, to me, the biggest pain in the ass was just like the follow-up, dude. Like I even have someone that like is remotely even entertaining a conversation, and like I gotta call them probably 20 times before we get anywhere close to a contract.
Yep.
Right. So it's just like, you got to be on top of that lead management. If you're not, like, you're gonna have shit falling through the cracks.
Dude, the average, I think the like national average for touches is like 32 fucking times.
It's crazy. So insane. And that's
crazy.
why I don't wholesale. First year solo, is your vision still like, all right, I'm going this route, like no turning back? Are there ever any like points of like hesitation? Are there any points like where obviously you started flipping and then you find out like, hey, maybe I gotta get back to my roots a little bit? It's kind of the way it sounds.
Yeah. So my partner and I, we didn't see eye to eye on how we should get leads.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer of like quality over quantity, and he was a firm believer of like, hey, let's just get a bunch of leads in. And I think that's a waste of time unless your sales model is make offers all day.
So his was like shotgun approach. You were more sniper.
But that's also what I learned through Pace.
And there's probably winners, I would imagine, and again, I don't wholesale, I would imagine there's winners on both sides of that coin. Like I'd imagine there's probably no wrong answer. You just have to want to do one style, right? And believe in that style, because you have to have the faith when you're on the phone that you're going to fucking be able to close that deal.
Right. Okay. There's guys like on both ends of the spectrums that crush. And I'm just used to the sniper approach, and it's worked out really well for us this year, like specifically.
So you guys transitioned back into wholesale. You're cranking deals. You know what we want to hear, dude. We want to hear about the Big D, dude. We want to hear about the deal that changed your business, your life, your paradigm. Give us a fun one, dude. Tell me something.
Yeah, so we've had a few fun deals this year. The one deal that really changed my paradigm was the one that I got when I was with Pace.
Okay.
Like that first deal, especially after 18 months of doing nothing, it was a big believer for me, my wife. Like, not that she wasn't supportive before, but it was almost like, shit, Tino's not just talking shit.
Proof of concept.
Right.
Yep.
But this year specifically, like we do a lot of door knocking. We still do cold calling. But the door knocking deals, if you are doing research and you use the sales approach that I learned, which is the Sandler sales approach, get some pretty deep deals, especially if there's probate involved and family members, for lack of better terms, like they don't know exactly what they're sitting on sometimes. They don't know the health of the market.
Why do you think door knocking is better than just cold calling?
So if you use the right approach on door knocking, getting in front of people is crucial. Like when I first started with you and Pace and everybody, the whole model there was get in the door. So even if we were cold calling or working the leads, it was set up an appointment so that we could get in front of the seller.
Get in that living room.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that makes a huge difference specifically in Phoenix, because this is the wholesale capital of the world. Everybody has a cold caller. Everybody's getting blown up. And so if you can different from somebody else, then I think you're going to stand out.
Yeah, and there's that human aspect too of like, I'm looking you in the eyes. You're not just some random person on the other side of the phone. Like you're a human now at this point, so they can engage a little bit differently. The
deal that really changed everything, like the big dollar deal, was out in Glendale. We ended up knocking it.
Okay, so are you out like just door knocking by yourself? Are you with a team? Or
Me and Nick and I.
Nick
and I actually knocked it.
So recently.
Personally. Yeah.
Okay.
Recent.
All right. So recent. And why did you guys start door knocking? Are you just like, hey, let's go crank some deals? We think it's a better way to do it.
Yeah, kind of like we know cold calling. We we're too cheap to pay for pay-per-click and SEO.
Good for you, man.
So we were like, well, the acquisition team, as far as like the cold callers and the VAs in Mexico, not that they're like on autopilot, but they do get that low-hanging fruit. So we have time.
Okay.
And so we were like, okay, well, let's just hit some pre-foreclosures. Let's do some research on what's going on. And
how are pre-foreclosures right now?
They're ramping up.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
I feel like I'm seeing more of them.
And so we knock on the door. Obviously, there's nobody there. There's sticky notes, so we know other investors have been there. We talked to the neighbor, and she's like, I haven't seen anybody there in a couple of years.
Really?
But she also did say that there were rats coming out of the house.
Damn, dude.
Okay, so
hey, we don't talk about Bruno, dude.
So that's money, though.
Yeah.
That's money.
Yeah. And
rats mean money.
so I ended up, so we go back and we do some research. We get connected with somebody in Michigan who knew the seller. He actually tells us, like, hey, she struggles with mental illness.
Oh, dang.
Or in the past, she did. So bad that the family, they had to call the family in Arizona to come pick her up and physically pry her from her apartment. And so he's like, she might still be in there. And we're like, well, nobody's seen or heard of anything.
Yeah.
There's a car in the driveway, and
Cobwebs, dust.
dude, cobwebs, dust. The plate's completely rusted.
So it'd been sitting, dude.
The tags had not been renewed since 2013.
And what kind of car is it, just for
Holy
reference?
shit,
It's a yellow
2013.
Focus. So anyway, we're like, there's no way she's in there. So we call a family member, and he's like, hey, we should get a wellness check. So
And are you just skip tracing all these guys?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's a little tidbit for you guys that are out there. Like, you find this like property and you can't figure anything out, and the neighbor's like, we don't know. It's been forever. Like, you don't have to just stop at that, right? You can like go find family members and like say, what's going on? What can we do?
Yeah. So I think that's what makes us different, though, because like a lot of people will just go knock, leave a note. If they don't hear anything back, they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And
Well, this is that sniper approach we were talking about, right? Like,
go deep.
yeah, go deep.
He ends up saying, hey, can we get a wellness check out there? So we call the police department. They say, hey, we can go out there, but we've been out there. We just went out there last week. We can't enter the property. So they go out there. I tell them about the rats, though. I'm like, hey, there might be a dead body inside.
Yep.
And so he's like, well, I there's no sign of dead bodies. The rats are because there's dead pigeons around it. I can't enter the property. So we go back and forth. Finally, the family member who's in Oklahoma, he used to be a sheriff in Texas. And so
okay.
I don't know what he did, but he maybe pulled some strings. So he sent a locksmith out that got into the home, and then they went in, and sure enough, there was a dead body.
And were you there when that happened?
I was not.
Oh,
so
Was Nick?
They didn't allow us, but I drove by. I actually have the video, but I drove by as they were like in there, and I heard somebody say body in the back.
Oh my goodness.
So I wasn't like inside, but I was trying to take a video from the outside.
That is so crazy. Like, stuff you'll find in real estate. So body in the back, like what now, is this freshy?
No, so dude, the body was so decomposed that they couldn't even identify it. Not even
dang.
like dental records. So they think that she had been dead for like 10 years.
Oh, dude, what?
Yeah.
That is insane. And the cops had been out there and they can't even get in the
What? Who's paying these bills?
Bro, so this is what makes it a juicy deal. The house is paid off. The only reason that we were tipped on it is because the HOA had been cutting the front and there was a lien on the property, so they're going to send it to sheriff's sale.
What about like they'll SRP, like utility bills? Like,
Oh no, that shit was awesome.
especially for 10 years. Wouldn't there be what's that, Liz pendants? Wouldn't there be a list? Because it's like if they accrue enough debt, they'll go after the house anyways, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Well,
that
that's
hadn't
why we
happened
were
yet.
tipped. It was supposed to go to sheriff's sale like a week after we did all this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there was a list pendants.
Yeah, I don't know if it's well. I guess it technically would be a Liz pendants, but yeah,
Yeah.
It was a sheriff's sale. We end up, that typical sales process that you learned, I learned, where hey, what are you looking to net? And the guy was like, I don't know, 100,000.
For a house?
We were like, okay.
Like for the whole thing?
in Arizona in 2022.
Does that focus come with it or what's up?
And
Take that piece of shit with you.
and so of course we do like, are you sure 100,000? And so
Sure you can't do 95?
well, we had to try and make it a little hard. So I'm like, let me talk to my partner. And so I
Yeah.
call him back like 10 minutes later. I'm like, no, we really don't want to be that high. We don't know where the payoff is. But, if you're ready to move forward today, then we could probably do that.
My goodness.
And so we sold it to Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff, dude.
Templeton,
Shout out to TLP
and
boys.
We sold it to them and made $226.
$226,000?
On a wholesale
My goodness.
deal.
Holy. Dude, you go door knocking, friends and family, dead body, $250,000.
Boom.
How long? And when did you start on that house? Like how
How long was that
much?
process?
The whole process
The
was about
work
a
for it.
month.
How many hours would you say you spent on it? Just for math purposes? Just give me
I
a
would
roundabout number.
say probably 40. like total.
Damn, dude, 1 week of work to make that? I mean, is it worth it?
That's $5,650 an hour, dude.
Let's go.
It's pretty good.
Hey,
I don't think there's. I mean, that's like almost
All right,
like.
hold on, split it.
That's
what
like
about,
Bezos
what about
money.
Nick? Take Nick's money
Oh,
too.
sorry.
Divide
Yeah,
that by 2.
Yeah, dude.
that's true.
Yeah, no, that's fucking bullshit. You guys only made like $2,800 an hour, dude. So it's actually not as much as I thought.
That's a lot of money.
That is wild, dude.
Holy shit.
So
awesome.
And here's how we always like to do this too. Like, so clearly you heard Tino's story. Like clearly, like it wasn't like get into real estate, knock on one door, $250,000 check, like sunshine,
And
rainbows,
4
right off
years
in the
of it.
sunset. Yeah, it was 4 years of grinding, right? Yeah. And then like one pops, like they just happened. Like you didn't do anything special. Well, you did the work, right? But it wasn't
You went above and beyond what most people wouldn't do anyway.
You didn't have a special list. No. You didn't have a special any inside information. You just found something and you dove deeper than probably most people would have, and it paid you more than most people will receive.
Yeah.
The other part of that, right? And we like to tell people too, like just because you hear these big numbers, like doesn't always mean like you guys are gonna probably cut yourself like $130,000 checks, right?
No.
Like the business needs money, right? It's gonna get reinvested,
Yeah.
whatever. So what do you think that's going to allow the business to do? You guys have anything cool coming up or anything now that you're like, hey, now that we've got a little bit more capital, we can go do X?
Well, I think it just allows us to expand marketing too, because like you never want to stop. If you're wholesaling, you never want to stop the basics, which is like cold calling. Your VAs are like your lifeblood. You have to get leads in, right? So like we're going to still do the door knocking, but that's kind of like an added bonus, if you will. And so like the base of our business is the cold calling. So that's going to allow us to like expand that. We're getting an office. We're going to be able to potentially hire some employees. We haven't decided if it's going to be commission only or like a base plus commission, but yeah.
I think the biggest thing with those big deals for me is just like the breathing room. Like you spend so much time like, because for the most part, day to day, even if you're running a good wholesale business, like you're still like, hey, you want to keep the business tight, like profit first, right? Like the business doesn't just hoard a bunch of money. So like you're always tight and you're always like, kind of like, like we got to like make sure things like stay pretty trim. And it's like a little bit of a daily battle of like capital in, capital out. So to have that little extra reserve to me just feels like breathing room, and I can just go like, okay, now we can breathe. Like, let's go figure out the most optimal way to reinvest this money.
And you're not like operating from a scarcity mindset, right? So like you don't have that commission breath when you're talking to sellers. You're not worried about, am I going to pay the bills next month?
They go, I don't want to sell you. I don't give a fuck, dude. We found a dead body last week.
Yeah.
Like shit like
Boom. Fuck you. I'll talk to the next guy.
They have no.
I'll text you in 10 years when you're dead.
They're like, doesn't make any sense. Are you threatening me right now? Well, that's crazy, dude. Like, that's why I like to tell the story first, is like the struggle. Like, dude, for 18 months, I mean, you ate shit for 18 months. You did the shit that nobody else would go do. You worked the 2 jobs. You had the belief and just like unwavering, clearly. You know, then it's like trials and tribulations. Then it's like, hey, found a little bit of success, decide to go on your own, reinvest in yourself, went a few different routes with a few different guys, just didn't happen to see eye to eye. It's like not anyone's fault. Just like it just goes that way sometimes. And then all of a sudden, like things start to click and then pop, bang. Boom. Find a good one, and now we can go reinvest.
And another thing is like mindset too, because I don't know if it was on your podcast or another one where Ramon was like, dude, I just started expecting big deals to happen. Mm-hmm. Like before that, Nick and I were like, man, if we can just like make 15 a deal, like pop a couple deals here and there, we'll be fucking living. And then we started changing our mindset of like, no, fuck that. I want to make 50 grand on this.
That definitely that happened in our business.
Yeah.
At one point, we're like, fuck, we can make $20,000 a deal. We could do 50 deals a year. That's $1 million. And it's like, that's a hard way to make $1 million for those of you guys don't know, because you're not always going to hit the 20. And then eventually like, well, fuck that. Like we need to be making like 50 a deal. Like, we actually set at one point, it was like a bottom line. Like we don't make $30,000 a deal. We won't even look at it. Right. And then it was like, well, now it's kind of like, well, fuck it. It doesn't make us at least 50. Kind of like not that fun anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So it's crazy how those things will help just kind of change your brain. Right. And like, if you're not in real estate and you're listening to this, like those numbers, I get they sound fucking absurd. Right. Yeah. But like, it's again, not all of it's just net profit. Most of it gets reinvested, but that's just, I mean, what it takes. You're doing shit that you're solving problems that usually other people can't solve. And that's why there's such big paychecks.
100%.
And it's a gamble every day anyway.
Yeah. Could all shut out tomorrow, dude.
I mean,
we don't know.
Gamble every day.
I mean, we've also worked the same type deals where we talk to a family member and they're like, no, I don't know who that is. Stop fucking calling me.
Yeah.
And it could be as thick as that deal, and then it ends up going to foreclosure and we lose it.
Yep. Yeah, you could work it for months and nothing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, dude. Well, Tino, dude, we really appreciate you coming on the pod. We really appreciate our new bottle of H. Derringer bourbon whiskey. I'm super pumped. I'm not really even like a big bourbon whiskey guy, but I'm going to drink some just because you bought it, dude.
I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to have some.
Yeah, Luca's going to have some tomorrow.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, dude, we had a ton of fun. This is the Big D Podcast. If you like what you heard, or if you just happen to think that Tino's a good-looking guy and you want to see more of this shit, like and subscribe. And then I've heard what you can do is you can unsubscribe and resubscribe, and then like unlike and relike, and comment.
And we won't even think you don't not like us, but that if you
we'll
like
think
us
you
again,
love us more,
you double
dude.
like us.
Plus, you know how it is. Like, play hard to get a little bit, you know? Like, maybe you unsubscribe one day and then come back, like, the next day. Maybe you give us a 2-day break. I don't know, right? So, unsubscribe, resubscribe, like it, share it. Big D Podcast. We're out.